Hello friends, I got a really excellent question, which is how do we modify sun salutations if we have limited mobility or it's hard to get down to the floor? So I wanted to share with you this alternative to surya namaskar, which I think can help a lot of people who might have some challenges with their mobility and their hips and their shoulders still get a taste of the sun salutation. So before we jump into this alternative, let's take a moment to step on back and think, why do sun salutations anyways? So whenever we're adapting something from the yoga practice, this is one of the first things we want to think about. What is the purpose and what am I trying to gain from that experience for my students? So let's take a second and break down sun salutations. Why do them anyways, right? This is a good question to ask ourselves. Well, a couple reasons. The sun salutations, first of all, help to link the breath with movement, which has a few different really positive effects. One, it creates a moving meditation, so it gives our busy little monkey mind something to focus on. It creates a sound if we're using ujjayi, which also gives us something to focus on rather than our crazy hamster thoughts. Also, that helps to slow the breath down, which helps to pacify the nervous system. When we slow our breath down, guys, we feel more calm. When our breath speeds up, we feel more active and hyped up. So when we do the sun salutation and can slow our breath down to match the movement, then we're creating a more relaxed internal state in our body. So those are a couple of really good reasons. Let's look at what's actually happening in the body. Well, we're moving our spine into flexion and extension, kind of like cat-cow, right? So we inhale, lift our arms up, a little bit of extension, exhale, forward fold. There's a little bit of a forward fold and flexion. Inhale to extension, exhale, step back, we're pretty neutral. Inhale into a back bend in our up dog or baby cobra, and then send it back to downward facing dog where we stretch out the spine. We come on forward, we do a little extension as we open our heart, flexion to round the spine, inhale to rise all the way up, a little bit of extension there perhaps, and exhale, neutral. So a couple things are going on in the spine. One is this movement between flexion and extension that happens all the way through the sun salutation. So we're warming up the spine, but also extending the spine. So axial extension, stretching it out. Downward facing dog, I'd say that that's its primary purpose, although it does a whole bunch of things, is that it stretches out the spine. So we want to keep that. Another thing that happens in the sun salutation is that we start to move the shoulder joint and the hip joint in flexion and extension. So you notice there may be a little abduction, adduction if we're taking the arms out to the side, but a lot of the movement in Surya Namaskar is kind of in this plane. So we're opening the hips, we're starting to open the hamstrings up a little bit, and we're moving the shoulder. So we're moving these joints, the hip, the spine, and the shoulder, and starting to get them warmed up, creating synovial fluid. Yes, maybe starting to create some heat in the body. Definitely we're starting to weight bear on our hands as well, just a little bit in that forward fold that we do in the halfway lift, plank pose, chaturanga. We're learning to weight bear in our hands, downward facing dog. And this is planting a seed for all of those kind of hand balances that we might do later on in the practice. So we're teaching the shoulder girdle how to work in our body. So those are a few of the things that doing a sun salutation gives us. So when we start looking at alternatives, we want to make sure that we're still uniting those benefits into the practice. We want to get the breath with the movement. We want to move the spine in flexion and extension. We want to stretch the spine out. We want to move the shoulders and we want to move the hips. So with that in mind, let's look at how we can do this with a chair. So before we get too exotic with big body movements, let's just look at a way that we could introduce that moving with the breath quality right from a seated position. So having a chair is great. A lot of people have chairs in their houses. I'd say almost everybody does. And it's really a great prop to have around when you're looking to adapt the yoga practice or explore doing chair yoga, which chair yoga, you guys, it doesn't just make things easier. I mean, it can make things easier, but it can also really help to teach alignment. So chairs aren't just a way of modifying things. They can actually help give us lots of good information about the postures that we're doing. So I highly recommend that you whip out a chair sometime in your home practice and explore what it can do for you. So that said, Say that I'm looking first to unite the breath with movement. Well, great. One way we can do that is right here. I could invite my student to connect to their breath. I could teach them Ujjayi. And right from here to whatever range of motion they have in their shoulders, they could reach their arms up on the breath and exhale, lower down. Or forward. So that's a nice way to set up that intention of Surya Namaskar right from a fairly easeful, probably pretty accessible seated position. So let's say that my student has a hard time standing, but I want them to get the feel for the sun salutation. Well, we could do a seated sun salutation. So it might look something like this. So imagine me using my breath, because I'm going to be talking to you, so I'm not going to be doing the breath as much. So they would inhale their arms up to whatever extent they could. Exhale, forward fold, and I would say a little rounding here, right? We want to get that spinal flexion in and mimic a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, little seated back bend. Exhale, plank position, and lowering down, we'll probably just kind of stay here. Again, inhale into a back bend, roll the shoulders back, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Now for downward facing dog, I'm going to suggest actually lifting the arms up like they do in down dog if you have that range of motion in the shoulders. You can even interlace the palms and press the palms up. Again, remember down dog, we're trying to get that extension of the spine, right? So press the palms up, extend through the spine. If they can't interlace their hands, maybe they have their hands apart, or you could give them a strap to hold on to, anything to help them lift out of the sides of their waist. If taking the hands overhead isn't great, hey, hands by the seat. Use that to lift the spine, right? And focus on tucking the ribs in, lifting through the sides of the waist, letting the head be nice and long, right? And then we're stepping forward. I'm going to inhale into my halfway lift. I'm going to exhale, find that nice forward fold around the spine. Inhale, reach the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Tadasana. So I can find Tadasana where my sitting bones are like my little feet. So I'm still finding that nice, even organization through my pelvis. So I'm not tipping forward, not tipping back. I can teach the ribs drawing in and the shoulders drawing back. So I'm finding lots of nice extension through the sides of the waist, but instead of being on my feet, I'm sitting down. Let's look at that one more time just as a flow. And again, you could adapt this depending on who you're working with, but this might be one way to do it seated. Inhale. Exhale, I'm going to round my spine. Inhale, I'm going to find a little back bend. Exhale, step back plank, just going to find neutral. Inhale into my little back bend again. And then downward facing dog. And if you wanted to add a hamstring stretch in this, maybe they take one leg out at a time. That could even be a hamstring stretch. Or if you wanted to focus on the hamstring stretch, you could take maybe one heel out, hinge forward a little bit, one leg at a time. Right? All this during downward facing dog. Might be a nice way to get a little stretch through the backs of the legs. Right? And then we step forward, inhale, halfway lift. So that's my seated back bend. And I'm going to round and exhale. Inhale, take the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. And now I'm finding Tadasana here at my seat. So there's an option, sitting in the chair. This time, let's use the chair a slightly different way. So this would be for a student who maybe has a hard time getting all the way down to the floor and up, but still wants to experience the sun salutation. I think this can be a really nice option. All right, so I'm going to stand in Tadasana. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. So notice I can bring my hands here, or I could turn the chair around and be on the back, but I like the nice flat seat here. Here's my forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to plank. Now, depending on your person, maybe they could step back into a modified plank position here, right? Maybe they can only bring one foot back, but they can still work their core engagement. Maybe they do one leg at a time. Honestly, for functional movement, just getting into some sort of squat lunge can be really good. So depending on your person's mobility, maybe they just bring one foot back at a time and practice, keeping their spine nice and long and their shoulders on their back. Maybe they can step both feet back and take a modified plank. From here, they could take even a little baby chaturanga. Move into an up dog, open the chest, exhale back, downward facing dog. Now this is like my favorite downward facing dog for anyone actually. So you bend the knees, press the palms down, pull the upper thighs back and get that beautiful extension through your spine, and then straighten the legs to any amount. Like I have pretty open hamstrings and I feel the stretch. So again, remember in down dog, the priority is the spinal stretch. So bend your knees as much as you need to find that nice length through the spine, right? And then straightening the legs is secondary. From here, I can keep my hands on this for support. Come forward, little halfway lift. I love Ardha Uttanasana with this chair. It's nice, you get a little bit of that hand balancing action, get the shoulders on the back, pull the chest forward. Exhale, forward fold, release the head. Find your feet, right? This can be good for balance. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands by the side. Let's look at that one again, more in a flow. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back plank. Lower down, little chaturanga. Inhale into a back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. Nice long spine, stretch, stretch, stretch. After 5 breaths, walk on forward, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Lay my head down. Inhale, come all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands by your side. So that could be a really nice option if you're working with someone or if you yourself have a challenging time kind of getting down to the floor, stepping forward, getting up. All the chair is doing here is bringing the floor up to you a little bit to give you a little bit more stability. So there you have it, everybody. There are some fun sun salutation options that you can do with a chair that help to make the benefits of this flowing practice a little bit more accessible for you or for your students. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please subscribe for more tips. Come check me out on Instagram. Say hello. I love to connect with you. Let me know your thoughts. Put them in the comments below if you have suggestions or thoughts. If this worked for you, if you have other things that work for you, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this community, and I will see you on the mat.